Peace and welcome to the culture on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about President Biden is looking to set another precedent by showing his respect to Mamie and Emmett Till. I'm going to share with you the latest about this new monument the president is looking to establish starting tomorrow. Also, a black mayor out of the state of Alabama files a lawsuit against the very town he became a mayor of. I'm going to share with you the story, and I want to get your thoughts on this, crew. Stay with us around that. Also, we're going to be checking in with our doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, and so much more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for checking in and being with us this afternoon. Happy Monday, folks. Yes. It's Monday. Hopefully your week has started off on the right foot and in the right mind and heart and spirit. Today, we got a lot to talk about, so get ready to join us in the conversation. If you are tuning into The Culture for your first time, or if this is your 100th and first time, you know that this is the show where we engage with you directly, and we want to hear what you have to say as we have these conversations. So join us in the chat, be a part of today's culture crew, and you can join us in the chat as we're streaming live on YouTube. Look under Roland Martin on YouTube. That's the page that you want to check in, and jump right there in the chat so you can be a part of the conversation as we talk about the things that are relevant for us. But you know, of course, we are also streaming live right now on blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, along with Amazon News, and Amazon News on Roku. So make sure that you stay tuned to all of those spaces to see the show live. All right, folks, let's jump right in. First thing I want to talk about is what the president is looking to do as he shows his respect for the civil rights movement. He's looking to establish a monument to in honor of Mamie and Emmett Till. Some of you may have heard about this, but I'm gonna break down the details. As we know the story of Emmett Till, this is one of the flashpoints, the tipping points for the civil rights movement, where our little brother Emmett Till was brutally massacred and murdered while visiting family down in Mississippi in 1955. And this was the case that rocked the nation. The big thing, of course, is Mamie Till had, during his funeral services, kept the casket open so that people can see the outright hatred and to see racism the way that she saw racism when he was tortured, kidnapped, and eventually murdered. So he was 14 years old at the time, and of course his story should never be forgotten. But the president wants to take the story a step further. He's looking to kind of memorialize certain places in the family, in the history of Mamie and Emmett Till. And so let me share with you some of the details around this very quickly. The White House put it out there that there are going to be national monuments in both the states of Illinois and Mississippi. The monuments will be erected in 3 locations with significance to Till's life, including the Robert Temple Church of God in Christ in Chicago, where thousands of mourners gathered to bear witness to his death. Now, the proclamation the president is going to sign to make all of this happen is going to be tomorrow, and it falls on the anniversary of the birth of Emmett Till. There's the picture of our little brother. He was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1941, and his, of course, one of the big things about this case was the simple fact that the woman, and it was all an allegation, but the woman who accused Emmett Till of speaking to her, flirting with her. She ended up dying, but she never recanted her statement, even though it was found out that she, in fact, made up the story. Made up the story. She lied, folks. And that lie she carried to the grave. And so Carolyn Bryant had passed on, and as a result of that, folks, this case never really got the type of justice and reconciliation that we were all hoping. However, the president is looking to make sure that the story of Emmett Till it will never be forgotten by the American people. Folks, I want you to join me in the conversation right now. If you're jumping into our chat, let me pull up the chat here very quickly because I want to see who we got, because we always got our legacy OG chat and the OG crew members. And I appreciate them so much, man, for all of you for checking in. But I see Robin, good to see you. Cindy D, good to see you, Cindy. Pauline, I got you. My sister Lana. Real Brooklyn, I see you checked in today as well, my man. Jennifer David, welcome to the chat. And I know that so many more folks are checking in. But what's your take on this, folks, very quickly, as we're talking about what the president is looking to do to establish a memorial site for the Emmett and Mamie Till story in 2 states, and especially as we're talking about the birth anniversary of Emmett Till happening tomorrow. This, again, is one of the most pivotal and significant cases for the civil rights movement. And it is something that we're still seeing some aftermath of this case, not just in the death of Carolyn Bryant, not just in all of that has been revealed about this case, but just the simple fact there was a movie done about this, about the decision and the struggle of Mamie Till. The movie Till came out maybe I think it was about, what, 2 years ago? About a year and a half ago, something like that, maybe last year, that movie came out. But this story still fascinates so many people. And it's a tragedy, but it's a tragedy that we should never, ever forget. So, folks, I thank you so much for checking in. But this is something that I thought was really important for us to know. Really important for us to know. President Biden, and being one of the few presidents that really, I would say, going this far. There's a lot of other things that, a lot of presidents could have done this thing, but this is taking it to the next level and showing honor and respect to the Till family as a result of what happened back in 1955. So, crew, if you have some thoughts on this, that would be great. Pauline, you said last year the movie came out. Okay, appreciate you for checking me on that, Pauline. I thought it came out last year. I was like, I know it came out either like October or toward the end of the year. But thank you so much, Pauline. I appreciate you for saying that. And also, folks, make sure that we should understand the history of Emmett Till and its relationship to the civil rights movement. It's still fascinating that there are some Black children, there are some Black adults that don't know the story or don't see the significance or don't, understand the importance of this story. And so, as the president signs this proclamation tomorrow, it's a good reminder. We have made some gains in this country, but we still have a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to just say it like that. We've made some gains, but we still have a lot of ground to cover. So, I'm looking forward to the proclamation. I'm sure the president's going to say some words, give some remarks around this proclamation tomorrow. And of course, we will do our due diligence here on The Culture to make sure that we keep you up to date on all that is happening around this memorial of Mamie and Emmett Till in the states of Illinois and Mississippi. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about another case that is very odd and peculiar. This is the case of a Black Alabama mayor who was elected to be the first Black mayor of a town in the state of Alabama back in 2020. And guess what, folks? he has yet to serve a single day in office. And this is 2023. So he has decided to file a lawsuit against the very town that he became mayor of. I'm gonna share with you the details of the lawsuit and get your thoughts on this. So stay with us. That discussion is up next, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. All right, before we move to this conversation about this mayor in the state of Alabama, I do want to get some of the comments because, you know, some of you crew members, y'all posted some very, very important comments I think that we should consider as we talked about this new memorial that the President Biden, is looking to establish for Mamie and Emmett Till. Talking about this memorial for two states, in the states of Illinois and Mississippi. These are memorials. It's going to be at 3 locations, but these are memorials that highlight significant places during of the Till's case in history. And so the president tomorrow will be signing a proclamation, which is the birthday of Emmett Till. He's going to be signing his proclamation to memorialize those places, including the church where the funeral of Emmett Till took place. That church is significant, it's a historic sacred ground because it was the church where thousands, literally thousands of people convened for the funeral services. They said maybe a couple of thousand people were able to get in the church, but it was like 10,000, as I saw the numbers based on the research, like 10,000 people waiting outside the church. And it was a major moment in the civil rights history to sit to where Mamie Till, made that historic decision to show the brutality of racism as she kept the casket open of her son. And history is from there. All right, let me go to what you guys are saying, the crew. Cindy, you said that you think this is a good idea as Republicans fight against Black history. Democrats, including Democratic presidents, need to embrace it. It is a big part of our history. Black history is American history. Right. Right. I think so. I would totally agree with you, Cindy, on this. I think that this should be important. This is important, especially considering Carolyn Bryant never was brought to justice. She died, even though we know she lied, but she died not being held accountable. So the least the president can do is memorialize those places that were highly important in that history. So I totally agree. And it's very true. It at least drums up the conversation, I think, for Black folks in this country about the importance of history. Robin, you said, so Cindy, thank you so much. Robin Welch, my sister, you said, thank God his story is a reminder of the true America, because this is type of killings these type of killings are still happening. And some Blacks have died, but we will never know what happened to them. Missing Blacks. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Real Brooklyn, thank you, Robin. Real Brooklyn checking in. My guy, you said, Farajii, this is something that needs to be done in order to show the young bucks the ugly past of America. Maybe it is something that will spark positive dialogue with young folks. I love that. That's the part of the reason why a Real Brooklyn, I'm a huge advocate of memorials and things, because we do. And I know that there are statues and memorials and places that people can see other elements and other people and read about other characters, other folks from history. Why not memorialize the spaces that we're in? Why not? It only helps as we're talking about understanding, going back to what Cindy's saying, Black history is American history. That's a part of it that we don't want people to forget. It's not just Black history, it is American history. And so we do have to, be reminded of those things. Now, Lana, you got a different viewpoint. I'm not surprised, Lana, because my sister, you are always trying to keep us to think critically about things. You said, and the fact that we keep falling for these holidays and hairdo laws and memorials are even more, or a curse to the ancestors' legacy. Beware, we are the ones letting it die. Be aware, we are the ones letting it die. I hear you. I hear you. I think that going back to that point of this is about making sure that it's not just about Black people, but it's about all people understanding the importance of things. It's when you have a memorial, when you have a situation where, like what the president is planning to do, then we start to feel seen, because now you can't walk away, you can't walk around that. It's like the establishment of the the Smithsonian African American Museum in Washington, D.C. If it wasn't for that museum, can you imagine, we know history is going to stand on its own. It doesn't need to be, put on display. It stands on its own. But there is something about having places and spaces where our people can go and other people can go to see what has happened to us, to see our sojourn, to understand the struggle. It's important. It's important. And as much as we have scholars and historians, folks, those type of folks that come on this show, other spaces, it's highly important that we make a mark during American history. All right, let's keep it going here. Appreciate you, Lana. You don't like my music. You said we should tear down all the monuments to colonial bigots and build some to progressive heroes. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Carlos Johnson, you checking in. You said that's what we're doing, monuments. with the sighing face. You say all the issues affecting our community, we're going to be appeased by monuments. I don't think this is about being appeased by monuments, Carlos. I think this is just simply saying, you know what, our struggle is worthy to be remembered. It's not about being appeasing or like we're going to just forget, oh, yes, they put up a monument, oh, man, that means all is well. No, it's not that. But our history is worthy to be remembered. And I think that's the big part about the monuments. Again, it solidifies in the history of things, right? Like when we talk about monuments, just like you got the monument of Dr. King in Washington, D.C., you got monuments all over the place. They got the new African American History Museum down in South Carolina. Those places, that's what we need. We need reminders. And it's not just for white people, folks. We need reminders for Black people. Where do Black children go to find and learn their history? In Baltimore, we have, if you've ever visited Baltimore, it's right in East Baltimore, we have the National Blacks in Wax Museum. One of the most underfunded institutions, but it's so pivotal when Black children get to see wax figures of us in our greatness and then us in our struggle, because they have an exhibit dedicated to the transatlantic slave trade. So when you take your child through a wax museum and they can hear the sounds and they can see, of course, the statues and the wax pieces and you can see some of the things. I mean, it sticks out. For a lot of our historians were exposed to those type of things early on. All right, let's do this. Let me take another pause, because so many of you are checking in and talking about the importance of this history. I want to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit more about this, and then hopefully we can get to this other piece around what's going on with this Black mayor in the state of Alabama and him suing his hometown because they won't allow him to serve as the first Black mayor. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Been having a robust conversation about the fact that President Biden is looking to memorialize some of the important places in the history of Mamie and Emmett Till. He's planning to sign a proclamation tomorrow, and I'm sure he's going to give some remarks on this. But he planning to sign a proclamation tomorrow, which is actually the day, the birthday of Emmett Till, as he announced that there are going to be 3 locations in Illinois and Mississippi that will be memorialized in honor and respect of what happened to our little brother back in 1955. And so many of you are checking in from the crew, and I appreciate y'all for the conversation. So many of you are checking in to talk about the importance and the significance of monuments. Some of you are in agreement saying that this is good. This pushes the needle a little bit further along, and especially in light of the fact that the president, the state of Florida and other places are looking to hold back on Black history, and while others are saying this is not enough. So I think this is an important conversation because it's all about the culture, right? And y'all remember what I shared with you last week about culture is currency. I want us to keep that in mind. Our culture is currency. It's not just something that we can make money from, but it also is a way in which things can be, it's like our exchange with the world, right? That's the relationship that we have. We may not have all the money. We may not have some of the tangible resources of a great people, because those things may be hidden from us or unknown to us. But the one thing that we do all have, and that we can all participate in, and that we are all stakeholders of, is our history and culture. So having a conversation, or really more importantly, having a move like this from President Biden, I think does push the needle forward. Is it the all be all? Of course not. Please. How many Dr. Martin Luther King boulevards do we have in the country? We got an MLK Boulevard here in Los Angeles. We had one in Baltimore. There's one in Chicago. Every major city has an MLK Boulevard. And some people even go as far as to say, making jokes saying that MLK Boulevard sometimes run through the worst parts of town, depending on the city you in. So ain't nothing peaceful happening on MLK Boulevard. But MLK Boulevard is present, right? Whether something peaceful happens or not, the fact remains that there's an acknowledgement at least, and I'm not saying that having a street name is enough. Trust me, it's not. But there is some acknowledgement. There is a simple gesture to say that this person is worthy, that this person should be remembered. And that's the thing about this. This is about acknowledging. This is about making sure that that our history shows that we are worthy to be remembered, folks. We are worthy to be remembered. All right, let me go back to what many of you are checking in and saying. And I'm loving the energy I'm getting from the chat today. So let me see here. You don't like my music? You posted, stop building monuments honoring power and build some to honor humanity. Wow, love it. Love it, bro. Love it. I'm telling you, I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. We establish these monuments. Even in other parts of the world, there are monuments of great kings, great leaders of nations, right? Every nation has its monument. We could talk about here in this country, Mount Rushmore, the Washington Monument, all of these different edifices and other memorials, quote unquote, of the greatness of the people who have impacted this country of the greatness of people who have made their mark on history. Why shouldn't Black people have the same honor and the same presence and be given the same level of respect? Especially considering we built this country. I mean, yeah, throw up a statue. I truly believe that in every state of the union, there should be some level, some dedicated space, whether it's a museum, whether it's a number of memorials, there should be some dedication that can be seen, visited, and studied of some things that a Black person from each state has done to make that state better. Can you imagine that? That you can go, regardless of where you are in the country, whether you're in California, Texas, New York, New Jersey, whether you're in Florida, Alabama, that in every state, when you go to make a visit to that state, you ain't got to look around and be like, oh my gosh, where are the Black sites? Where can? In every state, there's history of our greatness. Every single state. There's not one state where Black people have not made their mark. The problem is we don't know what their mark is. So when we go to certain states, you don't know. You're like, well, what history has been made in the state of Connecticut by a Black person? We don't know. The state of Vermont, we don't know. The state of Idaho or Iowa. You see what I'm saying? But there should be some sort of monument of Black greatness, of Black excellence, of Black history in every single state of the country. Because we have dedicated, we have sacrificed so much blood, sweat, tears to the growth of this country. And you mean to tell me we don't have something? Now, we're not, in some states, we're not at that progressive space to recognize, and going back to what my brother said, we don't recognize the humanity of Black people, right? So therefore, there is no space, there is no memorial, no nothing, right? We don't have that. But there should be one, and we should be pushing for one, because that's our history. Look, I get it, and maybe the president might be, and I just thought about this, folks, so y'all tell me if I'm wrong with this. Maybe this is all political, that the president is looking to make this happen because of what's happening down in Florida and the conversation about Black history and curriculum. And so the president wants to show himself being on the side of Black history, on the side of and he said, you know what, let me memorialize. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe it's a political move. I'm just throwing it out there. Could be, right? I mean, it's not far-fetched to say, oh, they got a situation down in Florida. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris spoke on that. We talked about that on Friday. But maybe the president said, you know what, we need to memorialize certain things. Here's a story that's a part of the American tapestry that we need to highlight. So let's see if we can memorialize those spaces, right? And he may want to be seen as the president that preserves Black history. I mean, I look, I don't put nothing past anybody. I don't put nothing past anybody. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing. TNZ, you said happy Emmett Till Day, fam. Look at that. It could be. That could be a new thing, right? Happy Emmett Till Day. What happens on Emmett Till Day? Maybe that's the next holiday for Black folk. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for us to think about. But it could be. So maybe that's the place that we. David Parker, you said all that is needed and good, but we need some laws passed. I'm in total agreement with you, David. I don't disagree with you, not 1%, brother. I'm in total agreement. We do need some laws passed, right? But just as much as there are monuments to all of the other people that have been racist, people that have had our people possess our people through slavery, we got all types of monuments and buildings named after them, parks where our children play, schools where our children go to. I mean, seriously, think about the level of indoctrination. Somebody goes to George Washington Elementary, right? Somebody goes to that school we may have came from I think years ago they just renamed one school to Crispus Attucks, the first black man killed in the Revolutionary War. You know what I'm saying? But you think about how we have been conditioned that in every element of our life, it has always been driven into our heads from the time we were children to the time that we are adults, that the greatness of white people, the excellence of white people, the power of white people should never be forgotten. And I'm just saying it just like that. This ain't racism. This is looking at history and looking at the facts of things, right? From the time we are babies to the time we are adults, we are always reminded about the greatness of a white person that has impacted our history. I'm saying, what about us having a different conversation? Maybe we need to go to an Emmett Till school. Maybe we need to go to some school that reflects our people. I'm just throwing it out there, crew. I'm just throwing it out there. So this is all very, very important. Let me go take a couple of more. Quick comments from our crew as we have this. Lana, you say this is not what my ancestors signed up for. They did not see our legacy as falling stones and monument. They saw us as a freedman class and a free people. Ancestors dream bigger. Facts. I get it. And Lana, I'm in agreement with you. I think our ancestors saw us in a very, very big light. They saw that our ancestors prayed for us to resist and to rebel and to fight for them to never be forgotten, and for our issues and our interests to always be at the forefront of our mind. But I also understand that the power of culture, the power of history, right? Our ancestors know it, but our people don't. I'm gonna say that again. Our ancestors know the power of history. They were griots. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have all the modern technology, so they had to keep those things in mind. They had to learn the Bible and know all the stories from the Bible. They had to do all of these things, and they passed on that information from generation to generation, right? Whereas now today, you can just Google something. You can just, you know what I'm saying, MapQuest something. But guess what? There's still some of us who are not looking to a book. Let's keep it real. There's still some of us who won't take the extra step. They would rather have a conversation about history from a show like this versus going to the library. And that's how they get their history lesson. Well, that's all good, because all I'm worried about is for you just to know, however you get the knowledge, get the knowledge. Okay. Checking in from Facebook, Uran Baker, you said you may be right, brother. It could be a political move on Biden's part to be recognized as that president who preserved Black history. I don't out nothing past any political person. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Tiana, you said, but Mamie Till don't want us to forget. Absolutely right, Tiana. So Uran, thank you so much. And Tiana, you were right. Mamie Till don't want us to forget, and so we should never forget. And we should never forget any story. It's not just about Emmett Till, but we should never forget any story. But guess what? Our history is so vast. There's so many stories out there. Some are going to take more prominence than others. We understand that. But that's why I said each state needs to have some place, some dedicated space, some monument, something to let us know. The Black history is so vast, man. You can't remember all of these dates, all of our people that have done great things, who've sacrificed all. Black history is so full. It's like similar to American history. It's just full. It is absolutely full. All right, and you don't like my music, said real knowledge is still in books. Absolutely. Real knowledge is definitely still in books. And that's why it's important for us to have conversations, but it's also important for us to read. But I'm telling you, history and culture, we may not have the power that some of these Republicans or anybody may have in stopping information from being passed. But trust and believe, that's going to come to an end very soon. Because the Pandora's box of consciousness has been opened at this point. Nobody is just going to go back to being ignorant. When you got all this history, you got all this learning, you got all this knowledge, and then essentially you getting empowered from this. No, no, no. I don't care whether you are a black person in Florida or Texas, wherever you may be, you can't go back to being ignorant. That's the power of consciousness. Once you know, it's hard to unknow. And when you do try to unknow, guess what happens? You run against a wall. You are no longer in alignment with what you know, and there's a consequence to that. Come on, man. Say that. May the church say amen. Where's my brother Dana? When you know, and then you go against what you know is right and true and good, there's a consequence for that. There's a consequence that that's whether you're talking about personal knowledge or you're talking about our collective history. There's a consequence when you act like you know when you really do know. There's a consequence when you don't take what you know and put it to and use that as a way to get other people to know. If you've just taken all of the knowledge, but you don't share what you have learned with other people, there's a consequence for that. There's a real consequence for that. You can't unknow it. All right, folks, we got to stop this part of the conversation right here. Take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about our health and well-being. We're going to be checking in with our doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. So stay with us. We still got a lot to talk about in the next hour of the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
it's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop big tobacco from profiting off black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. What a conversation we had in the first hour. Make sure y'all check it out. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I wanted to just let us know what the president was planning to do because it's history making, you know, and I didn't think that the conversation was going to go into the direction that it went. And that's just the nature of these discussions, right? Like some things you think, oh, let's see how it's going to work out. But then when people start talking, when we start really processing this, it becomes a much part of a much bigger conversation. And I'm totally cool with that, folks. And hopefully you enjoyed the discussion just as much as I do, because we're trying to figure these things out, right? And which is why we are having these conversations and the way we're doing it, because I'm not the all in all. I'm certainly, I don't have all the answers. And I figured, well, I might have one suggestion, one idea, but then you might have one suggestion, one idea. And that's why we need to have a conversation, because this stuff is way too important for us to always seek someone else outside of us when we got the answer right inside, right on the inside. So big shout out to all of the crew who participated in that conversation about what the president's going to do to honor and memorialize the story of Mamie and Emmett Till. All right, folks, look, I got to take a quick moment because we want to shift gears. And this is the moment where we talk a little bit about our health and wellness, because all of this stuff can take us into a whole different space. And sometimes it's hard to break out of it. So let's check in with our doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. All right, Doc. Good afternoon. How you feeling today?
Great. It's great to see you, Farajii. How are you?
You too. I'm good. I'm good. First and foremost, Doc, this is a great time because you know, I think that there's just so much for us to kind of like process. And, you know, I've been seeing a lot of conversation from everything from Carly Russell to what's going on down in Florida, to what we've talked about in the first hour with the president and Emmett Till, honoring Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till. And there's just the onslaught of stuff that keeps coming at us each and every day. Stuff on social media and all of that stuff. So, you know, when we have an opportunity to talk to you about how we can keep our health and wellness intact, it's always a blessing. So I know you got something really good for us today for us to kind of think through. What's the word with you?
Absolutely. So today is International Self-Care Day.
Bingo!
So right on target with everything that's going on. And we are definitely in different times right now. You know, many times when you're in the moment, you're just kind of experiencing life. But as you are someone that collects this information and gives us an opportunity to really look at the times that we're really in a moment right now that we have to be more protective, that we really have to look at where we are and what can we do to maintain our mental health. And so International Self-Care Day, Essence Magazine put out an article today about here's how you should celebrate Self-Care Day according to mental health professionals. And so I think this is a great opportunity to take a step back, because I know for me, this is a hard one. I think there was a moment in time where I thought self-care meant selfishness. And there's a lot of reasons why I think we pull back from taking care of ourselves or giving ourselves time. And I think for some people think self-care is in being more indulgent. And that's not necessarily the case. So Essence Magazine has this article today, and they wanted to show that self-care is not just about rewards and treating yourself, but a necessary practice to holistically honor yourself. How much time do you spend honoring yourself and making sure that you're in a good place mentally, physically? And I think what you'll find interesting about this article is what they suggest are good practices for self-care.
All right, so we know this is going to be deep right now. This is already, you already know that just having a conversation about self-care, what does that mean? What does that look like? Is a very big thing, because we're in a time frame, not just from the external stuff, I'm saying from within the internal, our cultural space, the cultural space that we find ourselves in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's a lot of emphasis on finding your peace. Who said it? Who said it? Hold on, let me go to one of our crew members that talks about this. Who said it? Protect your peace. I think that's everybody talks about, Dr. Bridget, protecting your peace. Now, I think we are kind of like all over the place in terms of what does that actually mean? Just because you got, I was reading an article, they're talking in the article, it talks about how there's pop psychology terms that are being infused into our everyday life, right? Into the mainstream lexicon of the culture. Everything from the term trauma to the term gaslighting to the term, narcissist, and like all of these terms that, as you know, that came from a psychological space that have now been brought into the mainstream vocabulary, and how it's the article was talking about the fact that it becomes so popular that it actually has morphed from its original definition into something else. And so I want us to at least start to have this conversation about self-care. Like, what does that mean? And how important is it for us to have an understanding, like a common understanding of what self-care is truly all about?
Well, I think self-care, and one of the many definitions really comes down to boundaries, right?
Right. That's another word they use too in the article, Doc.
Right. Absolutely. That's one of those things. I think, there's psychological terms. Then they take on a mainstream trending definition that are not one and the same, right? And so I often see some of these terms come and go. A couple years back, everything was about being bipolar. Everything was bipolar. The meaning that people used colloquially had nothing really to do with what it meant, and as far as a psychological diagnosis, right? But right now we're in a place where we've gone from defend yourself, stand up for yourself, and we mean all that. But we've gone from kind of being a more aggressive term to, look, I just want to protect me. I want to protect mine. I want to have boundaries so that I don't have to be in the midst of the arguing and tension and discomfort. There was one point where we were going out and seeking it a little bit, and now we're like, don't tread on me. Don't tread on me, but I will protect my peace. And I think, honestly, it's a good place to be. Unfortunately, I think it's hard to get there. And so I think this is why we have National Self-Care Day.
It is hard to get there. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want us to continue to kind of delve into this. And of course, crew, I want to get your take on this as we talk to Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. What does self-care mean to you? What does that mean? What does that invoke? Let's join the conversation. Let's continue the discussion on the other side. Stay with us. Still got a lot to cover in this second hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been chatting it up with our doctor, our resident doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. And we're talking about today being International Self-Care Day. Whew. I don't know about y'all, but I'm glad that today, international. Let's bring Dr. Bridget back into the conversation. Doc, why isn't this not a holiday?
That's true. We take time for everything else but ourselves. And I think a lot of reasons why we're so low on our own list. And what I found interesting about the article, and of course it's Essence Magazine, so a lot of the focus is about Black women.
Yeah.
But as I was reading it, I was like, I need this for our Black men as well.
Come on.
If anything, I feel like the whole self-care ideas and movement is something that we talk about as women and is more acceptable around women, but I feel like men need to do it too, right? Now, we have people that are, there's always going to be a segment of every population where people are self-consumed and they always do get theirs, right? But the majority of us give and give and give a lot. And we need to be able to have a space where we need to refill the cup. And that's what self-care is about.
Refilling the cup.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose you don't know how to do that, Doc. It's like someone's self-care routine might be fulfilling for them, but actually can be very destructive. Like if I'm saying I'm self-caring and I'm drinking and I'm smoking and I'm, just having habits that are not in the best interest of my mind, my body, my spirit, but it feels good to me.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like I think that's the part of this. Like people tend to sometimes associate good feeling with self-care. Yeah, a lot of things can feel good, but they're not necessarily the most healthiest things that you can do. How do we reconcile those two things?
So I think that's why this conversation is important, because self-care is not the same thing as self-indulgent, right? And temperance is important. Doing everything in moderation is very, very key. And so the first part of this article really digs into create a schedule, right? It might be one small thing a day that you somehow put into your life to be considered self-care. And then maybe a larger thing that might be once a week or once a month, depending on your lifestyle and your schedule and your finances. My first thought is self-care should not have to be expensive. There shouldn't be some huge price tag on it. And so a lot of what I suggest to people in my coaching practice, what I try to do for myself is that I'm doing something that allows me to slow down, that allows me to breathe. Self-care can be meditation. Self-care might be taking the time just to organize my calendar at times, or taking a day where you are not doing any text messages, calls, or emails. A long time ago, I used to have Green Box Day on my calendar every other Friday. Okay. And so the reason it was called Green Box was I literally had my paper calendar and drew a green box around it. And that meant I'm not doing any of this on those days. I was horribly bad at that, nor did I have people necessarily respect my boundaries. But the idea is that you put that out there and that you demand that people respect that. And so, a few ideas about what self-care could look like could be just cleaning out the refrigerator. It doesn't have to be so self-indulgent, okay? It doesn't have to be drinking, smoking, eating, rich foods. It could just be cleaning out the refrigerator. It could be that you're actually going to ask for help, which is a huge part for really independent people, right? Self-care would be preparing your lunch and doing meal prep, I think, is wonderful self-care. If you're taking the time to decide what you're going to eat ahead of time, you're treating your body so much better.
So here's what I'm hearing from you so far, because I think these are excellent ideas. You're talking about, can we say that self-care begins the start of new behaviors, new, whether we want to call them life-affirming behaviors, right? Like after you start the process of self-care, you should be making one quote unquote bad behavior less and one positive behavior more.
It might be that one little thing, that squeaky door. It's not a big thing to fix it, but you're rushing, going all the time, that you don't take the time to just stop and say, I'm going to just fix this one little thing, right? And then that in itself is rewarding. People honestly sleep more peacefully in a clean room.
Come on.
So taking the time,
Lord Jesus.
You think your eyes are closed.
Right.
So you're thinking that it's not that important and you're on the run, you've got a lot of things to do. You sleep better in a clean room, and that's true for yourself and your children.
No, right? let me tell you, Dr. Bridget, ain't nothing like some clean sheets.
Nothing like some clean sheets.
Hey, y'all know what I'm talking about. After you clean up the house and you put them clean sheets. My mother used to do this on Saturdays. I remember, y'all know the old school back in the 80s. Wake up on Saturday morning, wake up early. You clean the baseboards, the whole nine. Do that type of clean. When you cleaning baseboards, y'all remember that. Right. But the clean sheets,
it's a big deal. And
it's a huge deal.
But it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
Even just making your bed, and we're talking about really simple things that we don't talk about because we all like to pretend we're doing it all the time. Okay, we're transparent. We're being open. We're really having a conversation that can lead to better wellness here, right? And
that's real.
Even just getting out of bed and making up your bed. Put these things on your calendar. What is that one thing you're going to do a day? What is that one thing you're going to do a week or a month? It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be simply that thing that slows you down to say that I'm important. I'm important enough to change the sheets or make the bed or clean the refrigerator or fix a squeaky door or simply go over it might sound like it's household chores, but it's taking care of yourself. Your surroundings are a reflection of who you are, not just physically, but mentally as well.
I can't think.
Chaotic, It's chaotic here as well.
This is why you're the doctor.
The problem is it's discipline, right? The problem is discipline, right? We all can do it today, right? We're all going to make bed tomorrow. We're good. The problem is discipline. And so there are actually a number of apps out there that create a routine for you. We're in a space that we have more adults diagnosed with ADHD than we've ever had in the past. And part of it is being in a culture that is so fast-paced, moving, stressful, and out of control that we're constantly just moving. So there are, I think one is routinary. It literally creates a morning schedule, and there are all sorts of schedules on there, but being that we're talking about this, it creates a morning schedule so that you can make the commitment to yourself.
You know what? Hey, Doc, I got to take a quick pause. But now, and crew, y'all tell me if I'm going crazy or not. We have actually gotten to the point where the simple things that we were taught as children are now harder for us to do because we're quote unquote that busy.
We're that busy.
I used to say this all the time to people, oh, I'm so busy. But then I really checked my schedule and looked at my daily activities. I'm not that busy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we choose to engage with people. We choose to go to places that we want to choose. If somebody came up there and posed, hey, can you do this for me, or can that be done? We've determined the priority on the scale of, do I want to do this? Is this going to bring me the peace of mind that I want? Is this going to take me? But we're never that busy. I mean, no, I don't care what your profession is. You mean to tell me in your daily life that you are so busy that you can't take a time out to talk to somebody, to acknowledge somebody, send a text message, clean your room? You're that busy.
But, I have some ideas about how to control some of that timing. So, when we get back.
All right, there we go. Folks, stay with us. And we're having a conversation about International Self-Care Day with our sister, our doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD. We want to hear from you. Join us in the chat. Post your comments as we have this conversation. I got you, Corinna. I see folks in chat checking in and sharing what they want to see or what does self-care mean to them. Folks, we're going to continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We have been talking about today being International Self-Care Day. And for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD, she's given us some great tips on how we can make the most out of our time and how we can really do things to show that we care about ourselves. All right, I want to jump to the chat, Doc, very quickly, because folks are just sharing their thoughts of what self-care truly means. Robin, you said, for me, self-care is taking time for me each day. That's doing daily devotions and spending time in God's word. That's what brings me peace. Because of that, I finally love me for me. I love that, Robin. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it. I do that. I do a lot of reading. Yeah, there we go, Keenan. There we go. I do a lot of reading, and I find reading God's word, reading things that edify my thinking. It brings me peace. It brings me peace. So I love it. Robin, thank you so much for joining us for that. Corinna,
and
my
honestly,
sister.
the fact of the matter is, we are brought to this earth. We come to this earth. We're given this gift, and we don't have a manual. And depending on your religion and your background, what have you, reading the Bible, reading the Word is our manual. And so we get off track if we don't know how to feed our soul. That is where you feed your soul. That's our manual for living. So if for nothing else, and to be honest, everyone is a prophet in this world, right? Everyone's got their version of how they think you should live. But here's the original. Be respectful to everyone and their backgrounds and their religion, but here's the original. And so when things are off kilter, it is a beautiful and wonderful place to reconnect and stay connected to yourself as well as to your faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better. Now, Corinna put something out there. Corinna Denise, one of our great contributors here on the show. But she says self-care also looks like saying no. It's been hard for me, but I'm learning how to do it. I was tested with that a lot recently. Self-care looks like saying no. Whew.
100%.
I struggle with that for years.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I struggle with that for years. Corinna, I appreciate you for pointing this out. How important is that, what Corinna is saying? How significant is that for real in this day and time for us to have to fully embrace the power of saying no?
Well, the fact of the matter is that people will want a lot from you, but you create no reserve for what you need for yourself. So you're basically, something that I often say for myself as well as for many of my clients is that you don't get in the plane with no fuel, right? And every time you decide to say yes to some new project, person, what someone else's expectations are of you, you're depleting the amount of fuel that is in your plane, that's in that jet. And so one thing that I do for myself that I advise other people to do is that every project, conversation, interaction, I check my jet fuel. Is it going to give me joy? Is it worth my energy? And is it worth my time? That is my jet fuel. If I can't get a good 2 out of 3, the answer is absolutely no. So check your jet fuel in everything you do. And I have been in a situation, been on phone calls and said, the joy is not coming from this interaction. It is not going to be worth my energy at the end of the day. And it's definitely not worth my time. I have exited conversations saying we can resume this at a later time because it's simply, if everything around you is draining you, you have nothing for yourself or for anybody else.
And let's build here, Doc. Let's build, because I'm loving what you're saying. Part of the way that I personally make decisions is that if there's an opportunity or if there's a question that's being asked, I immediately go to the God within and see if that idea resonates with me.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's the part of this whole thing, is being able to get in tune with your inner spirit, your inner mind, body, spirit, your inner self, to see that whatever this person or this opportunity is calling from you, that it's in alignment with you.
Yes. Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel like it's in alignment with me, then going to your point, I'm not going to waste the time. Now, here's the other thing, though. Here's the other thing, Doc, and I think if you can speak to this, the mood that you are in when someone may make a suggestion or they may ask a favor, or the mood that you are in also will determine how you respond to something.
Yes. However,
so talk to us about that, because it could be good for you, but because you in a bad mood, because you just kind of had an argument with somebody, a family member or something, that can throw off your frequency.
Yes.
To see the alignment of what that person may be bringing. Can you talk to about that?
Absolutely. So you're right. The mood that you're in can have a big effect on the decisions that you make, which goes back to any big major decision. Take a moment, take a day, tell them, I'm going to reflect on this and I'll get back to you. At the same time, if you're doing the self-care, if you're doing that meditation, prayer, slowing down, eating breakfast, stretching in the morning, you learn to balance your emotions in a way that you're not attacking or making quick decisions that may not be, that are momentary, but not really in alignment with who you are as a person. So that self-care makes a big difference in the decisions that you make overall, which a part of the reason why I often suggest self-care shouldn't necessarily always be the last thing that you do at the end of the day before you go to sleep. Start with your self-care. Start in a place so that the rest of your day will be in alignment with who you are. But I will tell you what I found really interesting over the years with my coaching clients. So many people, you're talking about, you have to have an understanding of who you are and whether something resonates with you. So many of my clients they did not have that level of communication internally. Many of them I've had to work on finding out, what do you like and dislike? How do you know something is in alignment with you if you don't know who you are? And that is not any particular age group. That could be any age group.
That's right.
I've had clients that much of our work is, what is the feeling you have when something makes you happy, when you like something, where it is in agreement with you, when it speaks to who you are? What is that? Paying attention to what is that what is that feeling when it doesn't really connect with you, and why? And I've spent more time working with clients just having them understand who they are. What do you really like? What do you dislike? Because how do you make decisions if you don't know what that is?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Look at that. You dropping some jewels today, Doc.
I think what it is here is that it's hard to take the time to make yourself the priority again, right? And for a lot of us, our relationships, our marriages, our children, our parents, wherever you are in your experiences can often take the priority of who you are, and you start to miss the boat of you. And then many times in our culture, first of all, in our culture, it's always been that you are not the most important, and it's everybody else and taking care of everybody else. We've evolved into a culture where you are part of the equation again, right? But many times, even with that is not even necessarily important until you get old, until the kids are grown, and many people do not have a real connection with themselves. And I've had people tell me this. I've seen it in my own experience, until their parents are gone, because we live up to the expectation of our parents. And when those parents are gone, then they say, wait a minute, if I have no one to answer to, then who am I? And so you need to go back and do the work to be in relationship with you. Be in relationship with your spirit. And don't waste your whole life living up to everybody else's expectations and you never get back to yourself.
I got to take a break, Doc. I want people to let that thing marinate. Yes, preach. You got to know. See, the self-care, the big thing about the self-care piece is knowing yourself. Like you said, you got to know yourself. And sometimes, and I got to take a quick pause, but I want us to think about this over the next few seconds that we're away. Some of us are afraid to go and do some deep diving into us, into our own thinking. I'm not talking about us as a collective. I'm saying us as individuals. Some of us are afraid to do that type of soul work, that self-healing, or at least start the process of self-healing, because we might uncover some things that that might not be in alignment or it's consistent with how we view ourselves. Just y'all gotta walk with me on this.
Right.
Because we have a view of ourselves, right? A persona that we put out. We have a persona about who we think we are, but then in reality, when we sit back in the dark, when we are in those quiet moments of our day, and we truly start to reflect on who we are, how we interacted in the world during that course of that day, it's not consistent. And that can throw us off.
Yeah.
That creates the disparity and in some cases, the dissonance between the persona versus the reality. Woo!
Yeah. No,
oh my gosh.
You know what? Self-care is getting a therapist. That is self-care.
Come on. All right, now we gotta take a break. Because when you now you ain't nothing but you preaching now. Look, I gotta take a quick pause, folks. Stay with us. More conversation about International Self-Care Day, more thoughts that from you as the crew, and so much more from Dr. Bridget MD. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about International Self-Care Day, which is today, folks. Today is the day where you must do something to show that you love and care about yourself. And this is a huge topic, especially within the Black community, a community that has been in a state of opposition for a very, very long time. We are being opposed from the external forces, and then yet we oppose ourselves and those who look like us from the internal forces. And so this has created a real problem. And the biggest problem is that we're not able to find peace within ourselves. We've been talking about this with Dr. Bridget Cole Williams, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. But Doc, you talked about so many things. One of the big things is that if you really do care about yourself, that you would get a therapist. Look, that conversation continues to happen. I think we are in a space and a culture where there's more talk about mental health now than there probably was ever, right? Like we are talking about mental health. But my sister Cindy D said, why is self-care and getting a therapist so hard in the Black community? We know our God is good, but we need human help as well. God gave them the ability to talk to us about our lives. Can you speak to that? Why, because some of us are still holding on that if you're getting a therapist, they think that you don't have faith in God. Mm-hmm. If you get some sort of outside help from another individual, even a professional like yourself, a doctor, a woman who has gone through all the training, gone through all the schooling, who is constantly studying to learn about the best ways for people to care about themselves. And then somebody would go to you and probably be like, why are you going to Dr. Bridget? All you got to do is pray on it.
I think that's such a huge layered question because it says a lot about how churches want to maintain some level of dependence, that they want their members to have a certain level of dependency. There's faith, there's God, there's church. Sometimes they're all in there together and sometimes they're not. Okay. And so sometimes I think historically, sometimes it's been to be able to have some level of control over the situation, over their practitioners, their parishioners rather, and how they behave and what they do, that they want to be able to control the narrative. I think other times there's a lot of fear when it comes to, we have a lot of reasons to have fear over medicine and over therapists because Black people in this country have been treated incredibly poorly by the healthcare industry. Okay. So that in itself is an issue. We've been the guinea pigs instead of the patient many, many times. And when you're saying, have people looked at me and said, why would you go and see, sometimes I've had bad experiences. Let me say that, where somehow me being a physician means somehow I took a deal with the devil. And I've been in that situation and been attacked verbally by people that I have no clue who they are. And so I think you have to make decisions that are right for you. And if you're making yourself a priority, what do you need to do to get to a better place? And I will say, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're no different than you were a year or 5 years ago, then you need to switch up what you're doing.
Well, first and foremost, I'm sorry that you had those traumatic experiences from ignorance.
Ignorance and brainwashing. I think these are bad people. I think people get brainwashed into believing certain things, and it has nothing to do with me.
No, absolutely not. It's a lot of, what do they call it? Projecting. I'm gonna use a popular psychology term. They projected their stuff on you. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Like it's crazy because as much as we talk about needing Black doctors, Black therapists, and then you still got some other part of the community who are like, respond to those professionals just the way you had that experience. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what I mean? And it's like, what is really happening? So I appreciate you for putting that out there.
But let me say, the reason why. Now, finding a good therapist or a good doctor for that matter is not always that easy. Many times within medicine, we have very strict parameters. And so we do something called evidence-based medicine. And so what should happen is what you are basically getting from one physician who's sticking to the research and protocols and what have you, you probably should be getting from another. I'm not saying that's true, but that's in essence how it works. When it comes to therapists, though they all have very specific training, there is something, everything is pulled from within still, right? And so how they see the world and how they may see you might filter or alter how they project what they've learned, I have found, right? So that's why finding a therapist can be sometimes a little bit difficult. I'm not saying that's true for everybody, but people should be able, therapists should have the ability to be very objective and see the individual in front of them as the individual for who they are. But that's not always the case, which I've just had a lot of patients that have struggled with this. And so, but the problem is that if you get to a point where, so I'm going beyond the self-care. If you've gotten to a point where there is no self-care, where you're having trouble sleeping, concentrating, you're struggling with your weight, you can't seem to get out of bed, you're not enjoying the things that you've enjoyed before, you can be going from a lack of self-care and going into what would be considered a major depression. And so, and we normalize many times mental health issues as if, oh, that person's just going through a hard time. Oh, that person's just a little crazy. Sometimes they have a diagnosis that needs attention.
No doubt.
Talking about today with self-care is not just, painting your nails and writing in your journal. What we're really saying is do the work so that you can avoid more serious things and actually enjoy your life better. The segments reclaim your well. It's reclaiming and owning your wellness, doing the work that you need to do to be able to keep your wellness up to par and enjoying your experience in life.
Let me add to that because you don't like my music. You posted a couple of things, bro, and I appreciate you for joining, for always being a part of the conversation. But you don't like my music. You said therapy is expensive, which it doesn't have. It can be. But I found that there are ways that you can still get quality therapy for lower price, because a lot of schools, like colleges, they have clinics and therapists that, these are students who are being trained, students who are part of programs that allow them to go into the communities and create these therapy sessions with folks. But they're monitored, they're managed by licensed therapists, licensed professors who speak to therapy. So he said therapy is expensive. It can be, but you just got to do your research to find ways to find the therapy that is not expensive.
But now it's now, most, back in the day, the therapists were not covered by insurance. Most of them is covered by insurance now. So if you're paying for your insurance, you're probably not having to pay anything additional for your therapist. I do want to mention something that's I've seen in the Cleveland area, which has been incredibly, definitely look this up and hopefully there's something like this where you are, but it's called ghetto therapy. It offers needed mental health resources in underserved Cleveland communities. It was created by Walter Payton, who I believe is either a therapist or a physician in the Cleveland area. And it is focused on the Black community. Okay. And so there are opportunities that may speak to you, whether it's your insurance, whether it's organizations that provide high quality services specifically for us, by us. The office that I work at in Cleveland as well is a Black owned therapy office. And they offer all sorts of services, high quality, covered by your insurance. So the problem, I think, oftentimes is it pulls you away from work. And I think also there is work you have to do to find the right person for you. And it's incredibly
That's facts.
vulnerable to go in and sit down with a therapist, unpack the trash that you're walking around with, realize this person is not who I want to talk to.
Right.
You don't have to go and start over and wait 3 months to then get another appointment with somebody. It's exhausting. So I definitely understand why. And so get good referrals. You know, if someone that you know has a great therapist, find out who it is.
There it is, right there. And of course, many of you are checking in and saying that churches are offering professional counseling services. So take advantage of that. Your job might have counseling services depending on the nature of your work. You take advantage of that. But there are ways to get therapy in an inexpensive way. There is definitely, you don't like my music, you said. Now, here's the other thing you pointed out, you don't like my music. And I want to bring this up because I know this is a huge part of the conversation. You said, bro, if you have good friends, you really don't need a therapist. I'm going to disagree with you. Respectfully, I will disagree with you. As great as our friends are, they're biased. They're not going to obviously always tell you what they see from you. I have some great people in my network family. I need a professional that's going to help me, to guide me out of whatever dark place, whatever pattern I am in, right? Because your family and your friends, they have a view of you. Versus going to a stranger, I think, Doc, very quickly, versus going to a stranger, they don't know you. They just finding out what your story is, and they can provide some guidance. Your friends are so close to you sometimes that their view of you can be distorted in terms of being able to help guide you out. And I had to go through therapy to understand that a therapist is not just there listening to your problems, but they're actually guides. They are the people that say, okay, you're in this place. We're trying to get you in this place. And let me show you, based upon my training, based upon my experience, based upon my insight, how to get you from point A to point B without going through more trauma, more pain, and something that may hold you back, to walk you through the dark moments of your life. That's what I've got.
Yes.
Talk to me, Doc, on this.
I agree. And I think that's really well said. I think at the end of the day, it's powerful, and we all need great friends and family. But how vulnerable do you get? How do they truly know everything about you? And how much are you willing to expose? And how much time are they willing to put in to really hear about you? And so when you're going to a therapist, you have this space where you can be completely vulnerable. Completely holding back on nothing and saying the things that you don't let your friend know, right?
Come on. Because sometimes it might be about your friend.
Because sometimes it's about the friend. Right? And to be honest, the other part of that is, if you have two broke friends, guess who the third one is? You. If you have two friends that are that their way of dealing with problems is getting drunk and chasing men or women and doing, guess who the third one is? You. So sometimes your friends might be, in your family might be great, but sometimes they are a part of your toxicity.
Damn.
There's a statement that today a therapist just told your ex that they were good enough, that they were enough, right? The same person that has caused you trauma, they're narcissistic, they're out of control, they're off the hinges. There's someone that's told them today, you know what? You're doing a great job, because they're going and they're not being vulnerable, right? You need to go someplace where you can be vulnerable, that you can tell your truth, and that hopefully they're coming back to you. And, the thing is that, like, I'm a certified trained life coach and professional coach. So I work with people in, physicians, healthcare, as well as personal. And I don't always follow all the rules. If I feel like you are saying and doing the wrong thing, I tell people, okay? Because if I just sit there and let you believe your lies, how am I helping you? So
wait a minute, hold on. See, you have to have, are you having an after chat today?
I think I am. Yes.
You will have to have an after chat today.
It's true, right?
Y'all, you will have to have one today about self-care and about this, because a lot of people do that. Like we're slowly as a culture getting away from individuals who are trained professionals to help us, right? And I know there is a lot of resistance and hesitancy from Black folks because of a number of our relationship to people and institutions because of racism and all of the other isms. I get that. But I'm seeing people, everybody, I mean, we're going to like horoscopes, we're going to friends. We're not going to people, we're not going to institutions that are really set up and designed for those things. Your mental health, your social health, and all of those things. We're looking outside of them. And then when those things don't speak to us, or when that guidance it becomes more detrimental, then we get mad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we get pushed back, and it's like, look, if I get it. Like we're in the age of do it yourself. I get that, but guess what? If I'm building a house, I'm not the plumber. I'm going to hire a plumber. That's the type of guy that I am. I'm going to if I don't know something and you do, then come on in and look, man, how much money to gain from your knowledge can we make? And that's what I think that is. A lot of times I think we put we are finding ourselves in a space of needing self-care because we really don't know how to reach out to ask people who are qualified and trained help me.
Yeah. And I will tell you,
you got like 30 seconds on that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. When I've had that clarifying conversation of you might be the problem, and of course, it doesn't always go well. But when I say, am I the first person to tell you this? And I don't ever put people in a space where they're never the bad person. But the problem is that they're not doing the work to be their best person. Right. And so sometimes your friend will sometimes keep you in the dark of your behavior. Your mom's going, baby, you're good, you're beautiful, you need that person that can stand from the outside and say, you realize you're the one that started that, right? You realize you're the one that's perpetuating that, right? You might not want to hear what I'm saying, but let's get to a place that if you don't like the way this is going down, that we learn new behaviors so that you don't end up in the same place over and over again. And I will tell you, as it's interesting being a coach and also a medical physician, because sometimes I'm sitting there and I realize that there's a much deeper psychiatric condition going on here that they've learned enough defense mechanisms that it is not evident to most people. And so as I'm sitting there and dealing with whatever psychosocial life issues that might be going on, sometimes we're uncovering a much deeper psychiatric issue. Getting a therapist every once in a while isn't a bad idea, but no matter what you do, psychiatrist, therapist, whatever work you're doing, pharmaceutical, you need to meet whatever you're doing halfway. And that starts with the self-care. That starts with making yourself a priority. That starts with the journaling and meditation and reading and slowing down so that you can have that internal dialogue that will keep you in a good place.
Absolutely. You don't like my music. You said my point was that most of us don't have good friends, not that we don't need therapists.
Yeah.
I appreciate the clarity.
Yeah. What is a good friend?
Mm-hmm. What is a good friend? A good friend is like, this is beyond my pay grade. You need to talk to somebody.
That is a good friend.
That's a good friend. Yes. Not a good friend. A good friend, if you are married and you're going through marital troubles and they're single and you never experienced marriage life, you shouldn't go. You can't go to that person. They're not qualified to speak to where you are.
Yeah.
Girl, I mean, I told you not to get married to him.
Right.
And they're not qualified. All right, Doc. We got to hop off. It's always a fantastic opportunity to chat with you. You're going to have an after chat today. This is an opportunity, folks, for you to pose your questions and share your thoughts with Dr. Bridget after the show. Is that going to happen today about self-care? What are we doing?
Just about in a half an hour or so, we'll be on Instagram Live at Dr. Bridget MD. And we're in the midst of our big book launch, so we'll talk about that next week as well. So we
got a special guest coming. I'm sorry. Did I say that too loud?
No, you're good. Well,
I'm gonna just say that. We got a special guest coming, courtesy of Dr. Bridget MD, and I cannot wait.
It'll be good.
I cannot wait to have this person joining us. Yes. Dr. Bridget, thank you so much. We truly love and appreciate you. Thank you for being so good for the culture. Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank you, my fantastic team, King Keenan, Joe, Shannon, and of course, I thank you, my online culture crew, Van. Oh man, we have a lot to talk about. 2 big conversations, too short of time, but I appreciate y'all for joining us for the discussion. Big shout out to my sister Suzette Speaks, who joined us in the chat again. Thank you. Good to see you. And make sure y'all support Suzette on her platform, Suzette Speaks on YouTube. But folks, I thank y'all. Make sure you do your due diligence to support us here on Black Star Network. Go to our website today, blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media and support us financially. Your dollars, your cents makes all the difference in the world. Support Black Star Network at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, continue to stream us on blackstarnetwork.com. We are now streaming on YouTube, of course, under Roland Martin's page, on Amazon News, and you can also follow us on Facebook as well, as we're streaming all of our shows on all of those platforms. So you don't have no excuse for not checking out the culture in the Black Star Network. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned up next 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will reconnect on tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here, exclusively here, only here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.